Richard.
Okay, the pre-show has started.
And then it's a case of trying to get the different streams started, so you know all that.
Facebook has accepted the stream.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and you're going to put it on the Peace Center stream too?
Yep. YouTube has accepted the stream.
My setup was to a single channel, not to multiple at once. But
okay.
I did look into multi-streaming a little bit.
Twitch has accepted the stream.
Well, Richard gets everything going. And you can put it on the Peace Center one, right?
Trying. Okay, for that I have to go to a different browser.
Unless it changed, because we just changed my login though, right?
I
did we
believe your
change the Peace
streaming
Center?
keys should be... no, it was your specific account.
Yeah, it was not the Peace Center. So it should be good. Should be good for you to put it on there.
Why is this yellow?
Oh, because the glass is yellow.
Oh.
Because the glass is... I thought you'd like that color. I could have given you purple. You know?
I should have it to match my headset.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, but I'm glad you asked instead of just felt uncomfortable. I should have told you, I guess. I thought it was obvious that it was, but the lighting in here is kind of...
with the lighting, I wasn't
with
sure.
the lighting,
and then
no, you
like,
have to see. You
I was
can
like,
see now,
is this
right?
just a lot of lemon? No, it doesn't taste like a lot
No
of lemon.
lemon. No lemon.
No.
Your brain starts working overtime.
And I thought you were my friend. By the way, I saw your interview with Maki, so that was good.
Oh, they posted the full video already?
They didn't post the whole video.
Okay.
I'm sure of that, because that's what they do.
Yeah,
they
I thought it would
keep
be really
you going
edited
for
down.
like 15 minutes, and then they put in, a minute here and there. And plus, she used a lot of different people, because she was saying, "Oh, we've been to, a lot of these," and which is true and which is good, because there were a lot of them. You know, they were in Jamestown, they were in Niagara Falls, they were in Williamsville, they were in Wellsville.
Yeah.
I mean, so people are, this is just what our topic will be, and next week too.
It has been posted on the Peace Center's
Wonderful.
Facebook page.
Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Richard. Okay, will you tell me, we're ready to go, right?
Okay, watch the timer. When it says on the air, you're on the air, okay?
Okay. Welcome to Talking Peace with the Western New York Peace Center, being recorded here at Think Twice Radio, in the home of the future, also the home of our friend and producer, Richard Wicca. Thank you, Richard. And we thank our friends at WBNY, Buffalo's original alternative radio station, 91.3 FM, out of Buff State, Buffalo State University. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. And when I think about thankfulness, I think about our indigenous friends, our BIPOC friends, our friends who are Black, indigenous, or people of color, who, despite all kinds of hardship, oppression, violence, etc., still are so thankful. So I want to just acknowledge that we are on the land of the Haudenosaunee, that is land that has been obtained through violence and trickery. We're also the land of the Seneca, or actually the Onondaga, as they call themselves. And so they start every event with, they call the words that become before all else, and those words are all about thankfulness. So as our friends who were enslaved and brought here through the Middle Passage against their will, and had so much oppression and continue to deal with so much racism and suppression, also are filled with thankfulness, and attitude of gratitude is so important. So the Haudenosaunee start off, acknowledging the people there, Mother Earth that supplies all that we need for a good life, all of the plants, the medicinal and nutritional plants, the knowers of the plants, all the many animals flying, crawling, flying, four-leggeds, all the animals, and all of the different beautiful elements that are both here on the earth and also in the sky world. And then they acknowledge the Creator and the love that animates it all. So then they say Nyahweh, and then the people say Nyo. So I'll say Nyahweh.
Yo.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we have a big show today. I'm very excited about doing our show that is on people power and also power to the people. So, the people need the power, the people deserve the power, and the people have the power. So that's what we've been working on, and that's what we've been seeing. So this is people power, taking it to the streets. And we're very excited to have with us first Peter McNamara. Hi, Peter.
Hello. Pleasure to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for this and for all the work that you've done and been doing, especially for Power to the People and for the Western New York Peace Center and for all these big gatherings we've been having. Mm-hmm. So thanks, Peter.
Pleasure to work with you.
Yeah, it's great. It's great working with you. And also Kristin Creech Engelman. I don't know.
Chrissy Engelman Creech, yeah.
Chrissy Engelman Creech. I see it all different ways. but we don't miss that because we won't miss you because you're always there. Always there, making sure making things happen through Power to the People, through the board of the Western New York Peace Center where you're on the board. And Peter's just on the verge of on the board.
Close.
It's just, everything takes the time it takes. But, and also I want to say right up front that Peter has organized all the peacekeepers that we've been having at these large rallies and things. And Chrissy has been organizing the medical attendance team.
Yeah, first aid volunteers.
First aid volunteers.
They happen to be mostly
nurses.
nurses and some doctors, so we're very fortunate.
We are, and we're very fortunate to have the two of you. But before we start getting into people power and the very exciting conversation about taking it to the streets, we like to go around and think about values. So when we think about the topic of people power, taking it to the streets, what are the values that each of you think about? So we'll start with Peter, and we'll just, go around like that. Go around.
For me, it starts with protecting human rights.
Mm-hmm.
That, there are rights that we are guaranteed as people and citizens of this country, and they must be protected. They are rights only for as long as we stand up for them and use them. And the moment we stop fighting for them, somebody else is going to try to take them away.
Thank you, Peter. You're so right. Human rights are so important. I want to give a shout out to Buffalo's School of Social Work has two major things that they focus on, and one is trauma and the other is human rights. So I want to say that is human rights are in every aspect so critical to our lives. So thank you for holding that up. And Chrissy?
So I think especially in these times, it's important to protect our Constitution because without the Constitution, we have nothing. We have no democracy, and we don't have those rights that are keeping us free, that are allowing us to vote, that are allowing us to get on the streets and speak our minds. So in this moment, it's trying to protect the little bit of democracy that we felt we had, right? And then trying to win it back. Trying to go further and do better for people, and everyone that's out on the street wants things to be better for everyone. They aren't. This isn't selfish. This is everyone needs to do better. Everyone needs to be better, and they're demanding it. So I think it's a great opportunity.
Thank you, Chrissy. Absolutely. So thank you for mentioning the Constitution. Thank you for mentioning how it is a flawed document, and yet it provides what little or, what assurance we have of our rights. I'm reminded that I didn't introduce myself, which often I forget to do that. But I've started doing it more because then I bring up about, and now people, first of all, they said, oh, you can't call her Vicky anymore. No, you can call me Vicky. I'm very fine with that. Or Victoria, that's my given name. That's my legal signature. But I am using Victory because My oldest friend used to call me Victory, and I started using it with peaceful conflict resolution we were doing with kids, and I would be Victorious Vicky, and I'd tell them I didn't like my name because it sounded so self-centered, until I realized that the real victory, and I would ask them, with the real victory, who wins? And a lot of them will get it on their own. That just what you're talking about, the real victory, everybody wins. And if everybody doesn't win, it is not going to be a real victory for long. It's just kicking the can down the road.
Absolutely.
So that's what we've been seeing. That's what we've seen right along, actually. It's this power over instead of power with. It's people thinking it's a zero-sum game, which it isn't at all. So anyway, I want to say I'm so grateful to be here with both of you. I'm so grateful for all the work that you all have done. So let's just start with just a little recap of some of the latest times with people being the people power that's out in the street. So maybe we even want to start with, well, start wherever you want to start. You start, Peter.
So for me, it started in February as the 50-51 protests started. And the original idea behind those was that there'd be 50 protests all across the U.S. and all 50 capitals, but all on one day. And that's why the numbers came in, 50 protests in 50 capitals in one day. But it very quickly grew to far more than that, including here in Buffalo. And I mean, even New York State alone, I think, quickly grew to a dozen, 2 dozen, and more 50-51 protests.
Right.
And I joined in on those early Buffalo ones, met up with people who wanted to organize more. And that led me to help in and start organizing with the 50-51 protests in Buffalo. And, it kept moving on. We got to the Buffalo United event on 4/5, which also was a 50-51 date.
Right.
And, we had essentially merged the two protests into one, showing that Buffalo is a city of good neighbors, and we stand in solidarity with the rest of the country.
Right.
Then there was events at the Peace Bridge where we protested, elbows up in solidarity with Canada. There was a No Kings protest this last weekend, which was very, very passionate, a very energetic crowd, to say the least.
Right.
And the Veterans March in between then. And every single time I go, I feel re-energized. I think that I have a reminder that I am not alone, that we are not alone. None of us are alone. We all stand together for a better America. And I feel re-energized after every single event.
Wow. Well, you do a lot to energize those events and to keep people safe in those events, too. And Chrissy?
So Peter and I met pretty early this year. We kept going to events together, but we were all just kind of showing up. We weren't organized. So eventually we figured out that we wanted to work with the Peace Center and do de-escalation training, train peacekeepers, and actually have things organized and safe, and having people really looking out for each other and having the resources that we needed. So that is really what we kind of coalesced around, is this idea of we want to make sure everyone has the right to go out and use their First Amendment rights to say what they are feeling and demand a better government, a government that works for them, and certainly that isn't what we have right now.
Right. Well, you're reminding me of when I first met both of you. So I'm going to say for me, now, first of all, I'm going to say for me, it didn't start with just this recent onslaught. So, but for me, it really did start well, I was a social worker and a spiritual seeker, I would say, from go. I was just born into that. But when I got politically active was the anniversary of 9/11. When I saw what they were doing, and it was just like, no. This is not. And it was the excuse for endless war, and it was going after people in Afghanistan, everything that went down with that, with George Bush and all of that. That's when it started for me. And when I moved to Buffalo in 2007, I started work for, actually, as the primary caregiver for our mother. Then I went to then I started working. 2 weeks after she passed, I was offered a job at the Peace Center. So I started working for the Western New York Peace Center in 2008. And I basically worked for them since then. However much of that was paid or unpaid, and I'm going to say the vast majority was unpaid. But I was always at least it was either part-time or very part-time. But anyway, it's just so vital and so important. And you know, the thing about this work, it's so compelling and it's so rewarding and it's so needed. Oh my God. So we are and I'll say this too, that my father, part of how it started for me is that my father was a German Jew in Nazi Germany who had to leave Munich in 1933 as a 15-year-old because he was such a radical. So it's in my blood to just truth and love, you know, to say what needs to be said, not on hating anybody, but, you know, well, actually, my dad did beat up the leader of the Hitler Youth and do some other things like that,
Wow.
which is not really my speed. But the point being of, you know, we need to stand up, you know, while we can. You know, makes me think of Cornel West says, you know, people can only get on your back if it's bent, right? So we stand up. We stand up for each other. We stand up together. And I'm going to say that especially the large rallies, when I did lots for the Peace Center that was with kids and community building. But when Trump, it wasn't just Trump, but Trump, as I was just talking with Mike Smith, who will be on the show next weekend on Taking It to the Streets Part 2. But and I know he worked so wonderfully with the two of you, so we'll get to that. But this weekend, you know, there was so much going on. So it included, I mean, such a wonderful, you know, the second biggest Juneteenth celebration in the country.
Oh, wow. I hadn't heard that yet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
great.
yeah. No, we are. That's why for other groups, it wasn't a problem that it was on Juneteenth. But for us, it was. That's why it was so late in the day. But anyway, so as you know, as we were planning it, that was why we hesitated to even do it. And I'm so glad we did. Go ahead.
I'm glad that we found a happy medium where, you know, getting in touch with the
Absolutely.
Juneteenth organizers and helping
Yeah.
them run the Juneteenth parade. You know, I think that helped to show, like, we're not trying to steal your crowd. We're in
Right.
support of you and your events. And
Right.
when they came to us at our event afterwards, you know, I felt very, you know, very happy about that. I was very appreciative of them showing up as well.
Yeah, great connection.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful. And I think it said a lot about our efforts because what really matters, you know, the principles that you're following and the spirit in which you're doing things. And I think that's one of the reasons why things have been so successful here in Buffalo. And that includes during the first Trump administration, when we had thousands of people in the street over and over again with the women's marches. And some of the time, I will say this, I was going to say some of the time when there were twice 65-mile-an-hour gale force winds, once in January, and then another time it was in March when we had already postponed it from a blizzard, and then we're like, we're not postponing it again. You know, so we just had a smaller crew that time, but even then we had hundreds of people come out. So people want to come out, and now more than ever before, you know, what we see. And so I'm going to say
A lot of people, their first time, they came out this Saturday. And that's amazing that they feel compelled to do that. They feel safe to do it. And they said that they had a blast. They had a really great time. So I'm happy, and I think they're going to be coming out again.
Yep, they will. They will. And I want to say also, in terms of the marches that we've had, some have been with permits, some have been without permits. So the Women's March had thousands of people, a few thousand people, for sure, and still, you know, without a permit. And you know, it was good. It was organized. It was, you know, it was well received. And what I will say is that people wanted to march more than anything, more than they wanted to hear the speakers, although we did have 300 people go into the auditorium, which was the max capacity. But a lot of it was no problem because people really wanted to march more than anything. So the hundreds and thousands of people who didn't go into the auditorium were good with either coming out for the open mic out in the square or whatever, or just going home. But they wanted to be out and march.
The open mic was great.
Yeah, it was good. It was a wonderful all round, and all the collaboration that we had from so many different groups. I want to talk about the Buffalo United group a little bit and how that's been going and what the upcoming things are. So Peter, and we'll go around again.
Right. So Buffalo United is a coalition of groups that are coming together to take a stand for a better America. And while we have many, many different causes represented, I think we all have that common ground of wanting to make our country a better place. Here with, being part of Power to the People and, being involved with the Western New York Peace Center, it's been great to be part of that alliance and coalition and be able to put things on together. It was great on, 4/5 when we had the first Buffalo United, and I'm looking forward to this weekend, especially seeing the energy of the people at the No Kings protests and looking forward to see that energy again at the next Buffalo United.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Chrissy?
So what I have just been amazed with, because I've done a lot of service in my life, and I've worked with a lot of nonprofits, and to be able to work with unions, the power and on every level that they have is just absolutely amazing to just get things done, to corral people in the way that needs to happen, to pull the right strings. It's been awe-inspiring. It's great.
I want to echo that, because I'm going to say we've worked some with labor at different times, but not as much as recently, because this is back to, I worked so hard. And, we are nonpartisan at the Western New York Peace Center. So I am not the director. And but I'm just going to say I've stepped down as the director was back in 2021. And so as a person, I can say I worked very hard to make sure that we did not end up in the situation that we're in now. And there are people who are questioning how we ended up in this situation, because first of all, I'm going to say it wouldn't be the first election that was stolen. So that there's always accusations. But one thing we often find is that when people are pointing a finger, often the three fingers are pointing back at them. And they're accusing people of doing the very thing that they're doing. And the really smart people do that all the time. Or the really, let's say, unethical, people who really, where truth is not an object. Those are the people who make the accusations that other people are doing the very thing that they're doing.
Lots
and that
of projection.
They deny.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we have the Fourth Reich going on, as far as I'm concerned. This is, definitely fascism, definitely big business owning the government. That's the definition of fascism, and that's what we have now. So people feel the noose tightening around our neck, and people are seriously concerned, because the human rights, the Constitution, are seriously threatened.
Arresting of elected officials and the assassinations at this point. And that's not the government, but they certainly set the stage for it. So.
Well, and also because there's been violence been encouraged by things that have been said and done. So anyway, so we're excited about this Saturday, 11 o'clock. It's going to be the Buffalo United March and Rally is focused this time on freedom and liberation. And so it's going to be on the four freedoms that Franklin Delano Roosevelt had mentioned. And those are freedom of speech and expression, freedom of worship, and freedom from want, and freedom from fear. So those are the ones, and I want to say in the freedom of worship, I do believe, I think they're going to give me a little time, and if they do, I'm going to sing and dance.
Oh,
so, yeah.
That's going to be a treat.
Looking forward to it.
You're going to be up on the stage.
Well, I already figured
we do
out
have
what
a full
I'm
array, so be prepared. Be warmed up.
Yeah, I'll be warmed up. And also it'll be very short. I time myself. It's less. It's 2.5 minutes. 2.5 minutes altogether, including the preamble or the very short opening speaking part. And it's really about all of our religions, have the same basis, which is the noumena, or the great mystery, or the truth, as Gandhi called it, or as Sri Ramakrishna said, truth is one. People call it variously. That's also in the Vedas. We see again and again that just love, really caring for each other and for the planet, is basic to all the religions, and they all have those same basic things, and they also all have some things in there that don't really belong in there very well either. That's got to be said too.
And that's
But anyway.
why we need freedom from religion too.
Yes, we also need that, right?
Yes.
And freedom from other people imposing their religion, right? So that is another thing. So real freedom to worship. It's actually freedom to worship. Freedom of worship is what they say. To worship, to not worship, to worship in your own way, or not worship at all.
Yeah.
I get concerned that sometimes some people warp the idea of religious freedom as in for freedom for them to practice their religion but ignore everybody else, and to make others conform to their ways. And it's tragic to see that go too far.
Yeah. I am an atheist. I've always been an atheist. I grew up an atheist. So religion has always been an enigma to me. I mean, I obviously have grown up and I've learned about many religions, and I do see the common threads. And I think we need to pull on them and kind of tie everyone all together, because we need to be together and we need to do these powerful, loving things together.
Right. Well, I think there's still so much commonality in those positions of an atheist or an agnostic. When, in Hinduism, there's the different yogas, and one of them is karma yoga, which is just, there's no worship, there's no religion, there's just doing the work. And a lot of people, that's their religion, is to do the work of helping each other. But I do think too that there are people who may be thinking they're practicing a religion, but when what they're doing is hurting other people and or hurting the planet, then I'm going to say it's not even a question to me of whether they're really following the religion or not, because they're not, or they're following the wrong parts that are antiquated or obsolescent or whatever, because the religions are a product of their times and traditional thinking.
And editing.
And editing, yes. Things that are left out, people that are left out, all of that. All of that. So I want to add in one of the ones I'm so excited about. So we're talking about this Saturday, and that means, it's the 21st, Saturday at 11 a.m. in Niagara Square. Well, I want to say we also have, the Dyke March is coming up. That's coming up soon as well, and we'll talk more about that. Right, July 6th. And then, and July 5th, there's Elbows Up.
Elbows
right?
Up for Canada.
So that'll be big. So we need to do that. And the other one, so that'll be, do you want to just tell about that a little bit?
So Elbows Up for Canada is basically trying to show solidarity with our Canadian friends. I mean, if you think about it, they're just a stone's throw away.
Right.
And I know a lot of people that don't remember a time before the passports were required where travel was so free and flowing over the border, and, families regularly crossed the border in either direction and spent real good quality time in each other's towns and cities and on the beaches and having a really good time together. And then when the passport, law was passed, it really divided us, even though we are almost like the same city in Niagara Falls. And even though we are so close to Fort Erie and everyone along the Niagara River, it really kind of like created this separation. And we are trying to pull back together. And that Elbows Up is part of that. And we also have another event coming up in August that is friendship across borders. So it's going to kind of be a very similar echoing of we are friends, we want to respect each other, we are not for the tariffs, and we are certainly not for,
The ridiculous.
yeah, the 51st statement. We're definitely against that. We appreciate our neighbors for their uniqueness and the fact that they are our neighbors, they are our family, and they are not us. They don't have to be. So.
Right. Right. They have a lot of things going that we don't have.
Oh,
that
so many.
We could follow them in a lot of ways.
So many Western New Yorkers just wish that we
Right.
could just lap off and join Canada, I'm sure.
There was a blog. There was a blog during the first Trump administration that was called "We Moved to Canada," because people did. They moved. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited. I want to mention Camp Peace Prince, which, first of all, we should do a show on Camp Peace Prince pretty
If I
soon.
could
Sure.
cut you off real
Please.
quick. Before we move
Right.
off from elbows up.
Yes, please do.
It'll be for the July
Thank
5th
you.
event
Right.
at Buffalo and Fort Erie. It'll be 11 to 1 p.m. at Freedom Park. And at
Right.
Niagara Falls at Terrapin Point, it'll be 8 p.m. to sunset. Again, that is July 5th, Freedom Park 11 to 1, and Terrapin Point 8 to sunset.
Wonderful. Yes, so that's on the Western New York Peace Center pages, and I'm sure it's on, of course, on Power to the People's social media pages, etc. It's also on our Western New York Peace Center website, etc. So you can get the details, but also thank you for stating them. We need to state those details. And actually, when I'm talking about camp, I can tell you, you can go to the WNYPeace.org and register your 8 to 13-year-old child for Camp Peace Prince, which is running July 14th to the 25th. But the biggest thing I'm excited about for camp is, well, first of all, we've done this camp for 18 years. This is, the 8 to 13-year-olds, and we do have youth assistance, and it's about social justice, peaceful conflict resolution. There's different themes. They've been abstract, like peace in time and space. They've been things like, water is life. They've been all different kinds of. So this year our theme is youth activism. And you're never too young to make a difference. So youth activists. So these children and youth, are going to select their own topic. They're doing a global call to action project, and it will include a rally in Niagara Square on the 23rd, July 23rd, probably 11:30. And I'm going to say topic to be decided. I am not deciding the topic. The youth, the children, the campers will be deciding the topic with the help of the youth assistants and the adult volunteers and the other youth activists that they're going to be meeting with before they pick their topic. So it's very exciting. They've done it before, not in a couple of years. It's been quite a few years since we've done it that way. But they have done a rally in the square before, and they'll be doing a rally in the square on Wednesday, in Niagara Square. At 11:30.
July 23rd.
On July 23rd. Wednesday, July 23rd. So we're excited about that. That's another big rally coming up. So if you want to see a rally that's really going to just be a joy to your heart, come and listen to these kids, because they'll have a lot to say. And they'll be creating the signs and the message and the music and all of that. So that'll be fun. So anyway, when we're thinking about that, I want to talk a little bit more about, if we could talk a little bit more about some of the work that we've been doing in training people for peacekeeping and sort of what some of our goal is with this people power and taking it to the streets.
Right. So we're always looking for more people to help volunteer as peacekeepers to help run the events. We've gotten a lot of good commentary from the people at the events, appreciating the effort we put in, and that, they help they help to make the attendees feel safe. And, in many ways, we help enable people to speak their voice, that, we stand for the freedom of speech, the freedom of peaceful assembly, and that is what we have to in order to stand up for everything else.
Right. Well, and so I love the way you've done it, and I want to say, so we've trained so many people. We've trained about 70 people now, I think, at this point, and still, I know you're doing a training this tomorrow, so people can sign up for that. If you go to the Western New York Peace Center Facebook page, there should be, not the Facebook page, the website. I believe the link for signing up is on there. If it isn't, I know you could put it on there.
I'll check.
I'm thinking you can
Like,
double
Pete, is it
check,
on there?
double check so that you're not. So I speak out of turn or something like that. I don't think it's full. We could still take more people, right?
Yeah.
I know.
We have
Mike
room.
just signed up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, Mike Smith. So, because the thing is, we all bring something. So, it's always shared learning. It's always shared learning, and especially in a topic like that. So, there's a certain amount that we'll share that we've developed that actually I want to shout out to Dior Lindsay, our beloved Dior Lindsay, who's now running the Osborne project here in Buffalo. But anyway, she's a former intern, former board member, and just a wonderful, wonderful social worker. She's the head of the Association for Black Social Workers here in Buffalo. But anyway, she really did she with my help put together this training, and then we worked with Dan over it, and now we've worked with the two of you over it, and it's just a very good training, and we're very excited that for people who have already taken the initial de-escalation and peacekeepers training, we will have another training on, and we're calling it civil resistance and civil preparedness. That we'll have when Elliot Adams comes to do a training on June 29th. So that's an encouragement for people to get this training now before he comes, because then we'll really learn something more about that. So what would you want to add about, you've been in the training, and you've given parts of the training too.
Yeah, I think that the training, when I first took it, it really honestly gave me thoughts that I hadn't had before. Because I hadn't taken a de-escalation training before. I just had experiences where it was basically, you have to figure this out on your own, right? So it's nice to have a structure and, real thoughts and, Keynesian philosophy to really open up your mind and open up your thoughts and really think about what is actually happening when you come up against someone that has a conflict of any sort.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things I've thought about, is that it's so useful in your daily life. It's not just about out on the street. There are parts of it that are more about out on the street, but there's plenty of it. And I mean a plenty that is, and of course we do a lot of that, I'm going to say, with the kids or in any kind of a training. There's all kinds of peaceful conflict resolution trainings where, you're really honing in on, I statements and things like that we don't really get into, or the conflict escalator or something like that. We might have gotten into that, did we?
I don't know.
Well, the conflict escalator is just what you see happen. It's just what you think it is. The way you get to a violent conflict that starts off with the verbal violence, right? The verbal violence, the tone of voice, the body language, and every one of those is a step up the escalator, that is, it's going up. So at any one of those points, you can bring it back down, and the sooner and earlier you do it, the easier it is to do. The farther along the person is getting towards,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you put out your little garbage can fire, it's a lot easier to put out than your whole house once it's all up, right?
Right. And the thing is, we all have some experience of dealing with conflict. We all have something to bring to the table about the tricks that we've used, the things that work in our family, or what didn't work.
Yeah.
So it's the shared learning.
And many years of experience of just being out in these types of environment.
Right.
That a lot of new people are coming in and doing peacekeeper training, which is great. But, a lot of it is just letting them know that you have support from experience and from people just all around you. Everyone that's coming out to these events really do care. They care about the people around them. And if you have a problem, ask for help. Certainly the people in the vests are going to help you. The people in the green vests, people in red vests, we're there to help you very specifically. But I guarantee you, the people around you are there to help you too. We had one person trip and fall and get hurt. And the first people to respond weren't peacekeepers. They weren't first aid volunteers. It was a nurse in the crowd. And, that's something you can count on in Buffalo. And really most places is that people are good. They want to be good and they want to help.
Right.
So we keep reminding people of that. People do have a good nature that you can appeal to and that you can count on in certain situations. So, you don't need to be nervous to come out. There's lots of support.
Right. Well, and what I think, to me, one of the biggest things that we're doing is building solidarity and building, that universal solidarity. In fact, that makes me think of Cornel West, too, who said, if we just have had the moral integrity and the universal solidarity that we need,
Oh, just that little thing.
Yeah, just those two things. Well,
So
those two
it's a little
things.
thing.
Yeah, those two little things. But they can happen, and they're really natural to our heart. It's the old, I don't know, South Pacific. You've got to be taught to hate and fear.
True.
And that's what happens. People have learned distrust that is very extreme, and it's very extreme in this society, but it's also very easy to counter because our human nature is more that of a loving social animal that we are, that we care for each other, that we're meant to care for each other. It's very instinctive. It's, so that can be. That makes me think of the indigenous story where it's the grandfather said, he tells the little boy, well, there's two wolves, and this one, the two wolves that are fighting inside you, and one is, good and loving and kind, and the other one is very angry and hurtful and, bad, behaves badly. And the little boy says, well, which one wins, grandfather? He says, the one that you feed it, the ones that you feed. So if we feed that instinct to love each other and care for each other, that is where we can transform our society, and we need to.
Yeah, even people that feel like they're farther gone, they just need that one spark to bring them over and realize that it's people want to help them as much as they want help, and we can be there for them. And it doesn't take that much to be there for everyone, really.
And how we can figure out how to have a victory where everybody wins instead of having a bunch of oligarchs at the top and 52% of the people having as 52. Well, I can't do the calculation. That just that but just having.
Yeah, the top 1% has more wealth than the bottom 50%.
Well, Elon Musk has has as much wealth. That's not even the top 1%. That one man
0.01%
has 52% of the U.S. population. So everybody who has pittance has nothing. Who's scrambling just to get their
they said
their
now
people fed.
60% of Americans are paycheck to paycheck. And I mean, 20 years ago that was 40 and we thought it was awful, right? And now we've just been slipping further and further. People that thought they were securely middle class are losing benefits. They're losing, the pay isn't increasing with inflation. So everyone is sliding back except for the billionaires.
So this is what we're working on, stopping.
When altruism is more powerful than greed, I think that's when everybody will benefit.
Right.
even the people who think that they're benefiting by hoarding money right now.
Exactly. Exactly. Because they can't even use all that money. Even if they tried. This is the other thing of how we would all benefit. You're so right.
Yeah, we could just walk away from it and say, you can have all of that. That's fine. It's worthless. We've got our own money. We've got our own economy.
Right. Oh, well, now they're starting their own money, too, and every other thing. It's just a lot of craziness going on.
Yeah.
But so let us talk, as far as the upcoming events, and really also how people can get more involved. So a lot of people don't really know what to do right now. Can we talk about, as we're starting to, about mass mobilization? And I want to open it up by bringing up the A Force More Powerful movie. So people can go, if you DuckDuckGo, as I'm going to recommend, or Google it if you must, A Force More Powerful, which I'm going to say is love. But in this movie, it's nonviolent collective action, which it really is, which is generated by love, really, because we love each other, we care for each other, so we, that's why we need to work together to get the changes, make the changes, and get the changes that we need. So that movie, if you search for it, they'll try to sell you it on Amazon, but if you look below that, then you'll see that it is freely available on a nonviolent conflict resolution website, so that you can just watch it for free and see people how in India getting the British out, the anti-apartheid South Africa, civil rights movement, the Danish during the war, Poland, the Solidarność, and the labor movement, and lastly, Chile. And then they go over all those, and you just see that people mass mobilizing, general strike, or whatever they did, the Salt March, the lunch counters, all the things that people did, and the nonviolent collective action, and how that led to change.
I think that it's very important for us to maintain our commitment to nonviolence. And, there's some people out there who feel a little desperate. They're saying that, we have to resort to violence. And it's not true now. It's not true before. I mean, with India, for example, there were some people who tried the militant option to kick out the British by force. And they failed because the British were just simply better at it. But it was only when nonviolence resistance came through that they really started to make significant progress. And for many reasons, nonviolence is better. It's easier to get people involved, and it's a lot more effective than some of its critics actually realize.
Right. Oh, you're so right. Chrissy?
Yeah, the effectiveness of nonviolence and the level of commitment that you have to have this success, and along with mass mobilization and networking, there just has to be a commitment from everyone in the crowd that it's going to be a safe protest, it's going to be a safe event, whatever it is, and everyone's going home, and everyone is going to say what they need to say, and by doing this, by having safe protests that are nonviolent, we are able to cultivate relationships with people that we wouldn't necessarily have relationships with, and that will stand up with us when the time comes, hopefully, even though you might not expect it. And that can only come from nonviolence. It can't come from any other real form of resistance. It has to be nonviolent. We have to respect the people that we don't agree with 100% of the time, so that we can bring them on our side for the things that we do agree with, like the Constitution, human rights, and bringing our country back to where it should be, for sure.
I love to say, I think that the principles and the spirit have to be right, and that's where we can transform things. We can really, that's where, changing the energy of the situation can happen. Our will and our intentions are important. I do think of Cassie Kelly, who, by the way, I want to mention the veterans and the Veterans Fast that's going on. I participated for 18 days until I got sick. But there's veterans who are fasting, means they are eating 250 calories a day. Veterans and allies, there are allies who are doing it too, eating 250 calories a day for 40 days, and then they're going to do some kind of action. I'm going to say some of them, not the ones who are fasting, but other veterans, went to the Capitol on the day before No Kings Day, and were arrested, and Elliot Adams being one of them, who's going to do our training, by the way, and he got charged with resisting arrest because he just went limp, you know, on the steps when they were arresting people.
You aren't helping us, so you're resisting.
Right, and they got more publicity about that than Trump got on his march. I mean, everything I saw was about the protests. I didn't see anything about the march.
I saw some pretty embarrassing photos of the march where they can't build the bandstand and the tank is silently squeaking along, you know? So I think it was pretty embarrassing for them. They had special edits for Fox where they added in applause and crowd noise. So.
Oh boy. So anyway, so God bless the veterans and all that they're doing. And I know that they are, you know, the fast is going to come to an end the day after we have Elliot here doing the nonviolent training. By the way, Elliot fasted once for 300 calories a day for 80 days.
That's insane.
That's
How do you
insane.
finish a fast like that?
You will have to ask
Slowly.
him. We'll have to ask him. Actually, we could talk some more about that because we do need to talk some more about that, but we don't need to do it right now. But anyway, it's so important, the principles and the spirit that people are coming at it with, and it makes me think of Cassie Kelly always says, you know, it's the means used dictate the ends received. Mm-hmm. So that's another reason why nonviolence is needed. And as you say, it's so much more. And here's the other thing. We're not going to outgun them. How are we going to do that? I mean, that doesn't make any, it just defies logic. It's not logical.
Yeah, the nonviolence has just, the way that those movements have succeeded, they prevented so much suffering and death. And, you know, we don't want to see those things happen in our country. And so we're trying as hard as we can to make it work this way, definitely.
Although I do need to mention there are some other ways of thinking about it, and I, you know, in fairness and in, you know, truth, I need to mention that when I was having that violence, nonviolent discussion with a Black Panther, and I said whatever I said, you know, very similar to what I just said, and he said, yeah, you know, that's all true. He said, but, you know, a little crazy glue in a police lock can do a world of good. So, so yeah, we might want to think about what is actually violence.
For sure. I wouldn't consider that violence.
Yeah, no,
Come on.
no, exactly,
No.
exactly.
And there's a difference between being nonviolent and being totally vulnerable and unprepared.
Or
and
passive.
those,
No, right, exactly. Thank you for that.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. And we are getting more and more prepared. We will be on the 29th after the training with Elliot. So I think that we're doing everything we can to do this right. And I hope that we see the dividends of it soon.
You know, you're making me think of, you know, when you're giving the training tomorrow and you'll be talking about, you know, nonviolence is a way of life for courageous people. Mm-hmm. You know, so it's face the brute, you know, and then that's when we really make, because people, you know, they may be misguided or they're paid to act in a certain way, but, you know, a human heart is a human heart that is made to feel for other people and connect with other people. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say that, you know, back to the real victory, we will all win. And it's this direction that we're going is bad for everyone, no matter what people think it is or what they get paid to do. You know, trashing the planet, grabbing all the profits from oil and gas. That those people, don't they care about their kids? You know, who are promoting that? Don't they care about their kids? Don't they want people to, you know? So there's all kinds of ways that we really, you know, we're working for the good, for the common good. That's why they call it for everyone, the common good. So, yeah, I think that's important to put that in there. This is really something that will benefit everybody, that we care for people on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And to pass on a better future to those who follow.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yep. Right. I think that, you know, that's what we're working on, and that's why we're having the success and the attention that we're getting to all of these protests, you know, the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, we were one of the largest women's marches in the first Trump administration. And now I think that, you know, we've been on Rachel, actually on the Hands Off rally, the April 5th, we were on Rachel Maddow, you know.
Yeah,
so
she has
didn't-
highlighted Buffalo a few times. The Women's March was on there, and
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Women's March, too. Well, because people have said, and I'm going to say during the first administration, they were saying, boy, things are really happening in Buffalo. I think, yeah, they are happening. They are really
definitely.
happening. And now they're happening even more.
Yeah.
They're happening even
out of
more.
necessity.
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
we need to. And it's gotten more desperate, and he's gotten there are fewer people being responsible. So, around him, and of course it's not just all about him. In fact, I was just saying
No,
to
it's
somebody, and
definitely
they were
not.
saying, well, of course you don't think it's, and of course I don't just think it's him, you know.
Well, Project 2025, he hasn't read it. but
Right.
that is definitely the plan, right?
Yeah, at the
So
end
someone
of it
gave him
all-
a blueprint, and he's following it.
At the end of it all, Trump is just a symptom of a bigger problem that
Exactly.
is far bigger than any one person or handful of people. You know, it is many individuals coming together to take power because they think they can, without respect for the rights of their fellow citizens, their fellow humans, and not realizing that it's going to make things worse for everybody, including themselves.
Right. You're so right. You're so exactly right. And actually, the way you started off that part was exactly what Elliot said earlier today.
Nice.
You know, because it's so true. He is just symptomatic. And it's sort of like back to Nazi Germany. Hitler, you know, Hitler didn't, it wasn't all about Hitler. Hitler, although it seemed to be, and he tried to make it all be, and there is a way where, you know, it's just sort of visually, it looks like it's, but it's all of that that's buttressing him, and that's, you know, is all the people with the bad acts and the bad attitude and the just the wrong-headedness.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference is all the corruption that we're seeing right now. You
Yes.
did not see that corruption in Nazi Germany, not in the same way. I mean, I think this is historic corruption that we've really
That's
never seen,
interesting.
especially out in the open. They're just pretty brazen about it. So it is something that is definitely motivating people that would otherwise probably be progressive in their social views, but the greed wins them over, and that anything goes as long as they're getting the money. So
And the other thing I need to bring up is the war making, because the war
good.
making that is something, and you know, when people get mad at me because I'm wearing a watermelon or defending the Palestinians, you know, just stop killing. Let's just start with stop killing people. Why do we kill people who kill people to show people who kill people that killing people is wrong? It's wrong.
it's always wrong.
But anyway, it's always wrong. So just what's the bottom line that you want people to bring away from this talk that we had, part one?
That you're not alone and that you can stand up for your rights with many other like-minded people. Those rights matter, and they are your rights for as long as you're willing to protect them.
Thank you so much. Absolutely. And Chrissy?
So I want to say that the first step to getting involved is coming out to an event and meeting the right people. Everyone has a different skill set, that they can bring to the movement. And no one is insignificant in what they do for the movement and how they help out. You know, there's Justice for Migrant Families. They're looking for people to watch children and to feed kids and to drive people around to appointments. We need basic life necessities for our neighbors, and people can do that.
Right. So there's all kinds of things, all kinds of ways that people can help. It doesn't have to be out in the street, by the way. Like
No.
you say, there's all kinds of roles and all kinds of work that we need for us to take care of each other, and to work for the real changes that we need in this society.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's people on the planet. So I love that cheer. You know, 1, we are the people. 2, we love each other. 3, we will not let them wreck our planet or our lives here together. So anyway, well, I want to say I'm so grateful to you both. You've both done so much, you know, so much wonderful work, so much inspiring work, and it's just, you know, you've made all the difference. It's been great to be working with you. So this is Talking Peace, and together we've been talking peace in truth and love. So that's a wrap.